Hi there. So have you guys all had lunch yet?
Kind of.
Well, those of you who did, which did you have? Pizza Hut, KFC, or McDonald's?
I'm at the Pizza Hut. I'm at the Taco Bell. I'm at the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
All right, so I guess we can. We're on time, right? We can get started. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. This is Convention Photography 101: How to get that shot and make it look easy. Now, disclaimer: we are not professional photographers. We don't even play them on TV, but we are avid convention photographers, and well, over the years we've learned a thing or two. And these are the tips and techniques that we have found to help you get that shot.
Actually, I have an associate's degree in photojournalism. However, this was back during the old days of film. Remember film? 35 millimeter? Yeah, well, it's a brand new world. Digital is a completely brand new world.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's made photography accessible and a lot easier. So, before we go any further, write this URL down, otakunopodcast.com/photo. It's not up yet. I was literally up until 3 a.m. this morning working on these slides, so I didn't have a chance to update the website. But it's probably tonight or maybe tomorrow, I'll go through and update the website with all of the links to the products and that I mentioned, as well as tips and techniques, links to articles that I find useful. So in a couple days, check this URL. And you'll find everything that we talk about there. So you don't need to furiously copy down notes or anything. So what the program guide didn't tell you, however, is that we have swag today.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. But you're gonna have to work for it. And what I thought as appropriate is we should play Name That Anime and I went through and scoured my brain for all the anime that I could find with scenes of people using cameras in it. So, well, before we started, let's just get some terminology straight. There's really two main types of digital cameras. There's the point and shoot, which is the guy on the left. Basic, simple, a no-brainer, just push the button and it shoots. And there's the digital SLR. On the right, the big clunky things with the detachable lenses with like over 9,000 buttons on them. Now, there's actually a third type of camera called the hybrid camera, which is the guy sort of in the bottom in the middle. But I don't really like this type of camera. As you can tell by the picture, they look a lot like DSLRs, but they're not, in that the lenses aren't interchangeable and they don't have as many settings as DSLRs. So really, what's the point of? I don't see the point of those, because you're losing the convenience and portability of a point and shoot and not really gaining very many features that a DSLR would have. So as far as I'm concerned, they don't exist. So now that we got that out of the way, now it's time to play Name That Anime. Bingo. Who's the first one? Yeah, someone will have to be the official.
Okay, I'll well, actually, I think the correct answer came from the techies here, so they don't count.
Can we just yell it out, or you guys just like?
You raise your hand.
Raise your hand.
I will look.
Thank you.
So unfortunately,
Shall we call that one a wash for them?
Yes, let's call it.
That was the practice round. Okay, so
You're going to tell us what anime it was?
it was K-On!
Thank you. I was wondering.
So, what are the typical lighting scenarios that you typically see at a convention?
Oh, this lady back here actually got it.
Oh, wow.
This lady back here actually said K-On. She just said it very quietly.
Well, then she gets a prize.
We've got some lovely thingies. Yes. Someone will have to be the official gift hander outer.
Okay, sure. I'll
You get a lovely Lens Rentals lens cleaning cloth, which are extremely useful. Not only can they clean lenses, but they can also clean eyeglasses, anything, if cell phone screens, laptop screens. So, what are the typical convention photography scenarios that we see? There's your typical outdoor photo shoot. There's your typical indoor scenario, such as a panel room like the one we're in right now, or your typical dealer's room or hall cosplay. And there's masquerade, theater lighting, that sort of thing. So let's start with outdoor photography. You got a lot of light, and you might think this is a good thing. Well, actually, it's not. The problem with it is the light is very directional, and it tends to really make shadows horrible. And let's face it. None of us get enough sleep at conventions. So, especially by day 3 or day 4, we're all con zombies. We got the hollows under the eyes, and it's not very flattering. And even if we're talking, let's talk costumes. Let's say you have a costume with various dangly bits on, little ornamentation on it. Those can cast nasty, harsh shadows as well. So the trick with outdoor photography is managing your light and managing your shadows. The solution is an easy one. Find a shady spot. Literally, this is the solution. This is the tip that most photo classes, kind of drill into you from day one. Find a shady spot, under a tree, by a wall. Basically, somewhere where you can soften the light, not have the direct light beating down on you. Now, if you happen to be taking pictures on a cloudy, overcast day, it's perfect because the clouds and the fog or whatever acts as a natural softbox. It really softens the light, makes it look awesome. The only problem with that, though, is nobody wants to see a gray sky. So the trick there is you want to minimize the amount of sky that's visible in your picture. So shoot someone against a building or, against some scenery. Basically, sort of tilt the camera down so that there's as little light, as little sky as possible. Another trick you can use is a reflector, and this, unfortunately, will require you to have an assistant, or you can really make someone stay and make them feel important. Just find some random person and say, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" You'll totally make their day. And basically, what a reflector is it's a large thingy. They pop right open, and it literally reflects light. So let's say the sun is over here, so that would cast shadows on this side. So then I'd sort of angle the reflector like this to bounce light back and fill in the shadows. Basically, kind of play around with it until you get something that looks good. Now, if you don't have a reflector handy, and you are at a convention that allows signs, find someone with a white sign, flip it around, and use the back side of it. That's a great do-it-yourself reflector. Or even, if you're doing a close-up on someone's face, have them hold a white sheet of paper out of the frame of the camera. That you don't even need an assistant for that, and that's just perfect. And that's perfect if you're just doing close-ups.
Yes, and also on that reflector, the back side of it is useful for shading. It can actually cut light. So both sides of this is useful.
Yes, it's two tools in one. Act now and receive a free special gift. Another technique you can use is fill flash. Many people think, flash, you only use that indoors. No, you can. There's many cases where you actually want to use the flash outdoors, and what that does is, again, it's an extra source of light to help fill in the shadows. Look in your camera's manual or on your camera setting dials. Even many cheap point-and-shoot cameras now have a fill flash setting.
Yes.
And basically that'll...
This is a cheap Econo. It's Nikon, but it's inexpensive Nikon, and it does have a fill-in flash capability. Just so you know, this is a $100 camera. Yes, ma'am?
Does the fill flash have a different effect than normal, like in your flash? Because I know with normal ones, if you're wearing a wig, it makes it look really shiny and plasticky. Does that have the same effect, or does it do something different?
For outdoors, the fill flash is not as powerful as the natural light, so it's just used for it's just powerful enough to fill in the shadows. So it shouldn't affect wigs and such like that.
Yes, because you have a very big key light, which is up there, and we're orbiting around it. It's called the sun. Yes?
So fill flash is different from regular flash?
Name that anime.
Let's do this again.
Sorry.
He was asking if fill flash was the same as regular flash, and I didn't hear the answer. I'm not sure if everybody else did.
Fill flash is basically the same as regular flash, except you are using it in a different way. You're basically using it as a second light because you have this really big honking key light, and that's there to fix.
AKA the sun.
Yes, and
So I don't have a setting as fill flash, I just have regular flash, is that the same?
That's good enough, yes.
good enough. Okay, now let's play Name That Anime. Okay, you.
Yeah, I'm not going. Lucky Star.
Awesome. Lens Reynolds luggage tag.
Okay.
So we'll have to pick different people to go first. Here you go. I'm down white. Wish I looked.
Okay. Now we've moved indoors. Several different indoor scenarios. A panel room, such as this one. Hall cosplay, just kind of wandering around the convention center or a hotel. And dealer's room. This is really bad lighting, and it's varied. Sometimes you have incandescent light bulbs. Sometimes you have fluorescent light. Sometimes you have both. And sometimes you have multicolored light, like if you're in a dealer's hall booth, some of the booths have, that funky multicolored lighting, and that can really throw off your picture. Also, for example, in a room like this, you may not necessarily have the best position. Those of you in row 1 are lucky, but what if you're, way back in the boonies? The trick here is to keep the camera steady. And this is just, there's several ways of doing that, and we'll cover some of those. You also want to, for example, in a crowded dealer's room, you want to try and minimize the background, because a busy background can really take away from the impact of your subject. And please, don't be that guy or that girl, the person who blocks the hallways, taking pictures. Please, at least have some common courtesy. Try and get them to kind of move off to the side and stuff. If you're blocking the aisles, it can cause accidents, and it's just not pretty. And also, flash is, generally speaking, it doesn't work at all, especially if you're way back in the boonies, and a lot of times it's not allowed. So how do you make your subject stand out? Well, the easiest thing to do is to pick the best background. So, don't take a picture of somebody in front of, the wall full of different manga covers. Get them to kind of move off to the side, maybe against a wall or against, someone's booth that has, a less busy background to it. You could use a backdrop if you want, if you happen to have one, or sometimes you like I said, look around for a booth that has a fairly nondescript background. You can also use a trick for blurring the background, and to do that, I'm missing one of my slides. Oh, no. Yeah. So, blurring the background with a DSLR, it's really easy to do because of, like I said, the versatility of DSLRs. The trick with that is you want a lens with as wide an aperture as possible. And we're going to talk more about, these terminologies, aperture, shutter speed, and stuff later. Basically, aperture is the how wide open the lens hole is. That's the ultimate non-techie description.
Also known as f-stop.
Yes, f-stop. So you'll see a number like f1.8, f2.0. You want to get a lens with the lowest number of that. And take that, set your camera to the widest aperture, stand as close as you can to your subject, and make sure that the subject is as far away from any background elements as possible. And then you'll get this lovely, what is called bokeh, or bokeh, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, it's a Japanese word, where your subject is in clear focus and you have this lovely, creamy, blurry background. It's fantastic, and it's one of those, those things where you look in a photo magazine and go, ooh, Now, doing this with a point and shoot is a little trickier, but it's definitely doable if you have the right circumstances. For one thing, you need a point and shoot with an extremely wide zoom, like a 6x or more, that sort of range. And what you do is you zoom your lens out to the farthest it'll go, and you stand as far away from your subject as you can. So, like I said, this is sometimes not possible. Like in a crowded dealer's room, you can't really do it. But if you have some control over the location, like if you can take your subject over to some place with a lot more room and set it up this way, great. Name the anime.
Okay, the lady in the back.
Got it in one.
Okay.
Mug.
Yes, since you're all the way back there, come up and get your mug. I'm gonna mug you.
By the way, who's providing this ad?
LensRentals.com, and we'll talk more about them later because they're a totally awesome company. Okay. Sometimes you have no choice, you've just got a flash. Your lighting is really terrible, and you happen to be in a place where the flash is not frowned upon. We've all seen those flash pictures that look like, bar shots where, you're just, the face is like totally pale and like there's no background at all. Everything's totally washed out. Well, that's because there's a way to do flash pictures without making them look too obviously like flash pictures. The first trick is get the flash off the camera. And unfortunately, this is one thing where you need a DSLR for. Like I said before, DSLRs offer you a fantastic degree of flexibility, and they're really not that expensive anymore. You can get really decent entry-level models for about $300, even less if you're willing to go used. And they're really not as big and bulky as they used to be either. This guy here is the Canon XS. It's the entry-level model. It's quite easy to carry.
Hey, that's very light.
It is. It really is. So get the flash off the camera. First way of doing that is using something called a sync cord, and that's that little curly thing on the left. It's basically a cord that plugs into the camera. One end plugs into the camera, and the other end plugs into the flash. And it's one of those coiled cords, so it can stretch. The second way is using a remote flash trigger, which is the little weird-looking box on the right. That's the Canon STE2. Nikon cameras have this functionality built in. But it's basically an infrared trigger. Just like your infrared remote control, when you press the shutter button on the camera, it'll send a signal to the flash unit and the flash will go off. There's also these kind of weird little radio control things called pocket wizards, but if we go that route, we're really straying into geek territory and spend a lot of money territory, so we're not going to go there. But getting the flash off the camera is that you do that one thing and your flash pictures will be like 10 times better. Now the trick to that is, where's my flash? There it is. Hold your camera in your right hand and hold the flash in your left hand. Have it angling kind of down and across, and instantly your pictures will be that much better.
Sorry.
It's literally as simple as that. Another thing you can do is to soften the light. Flash light is very harsh. It's nasty. And if you soften it, the effect will be fantastic. So you can get something like the thing on the left, which I have right here. It's a portable softbox. Basically, it's a kind of a opaque white material that really does a fantastic job at softening the harsh flashlight. They're really inexpensive. This one cost me, I think, $12. It just literally attaches to your flash unit. The thingy on the right that looks like a light bulb with its head cut off, it's called the Gary Fong Light Sphere. Kind of a similar concept. It's a bit more expensive, but wedding photographers swear by this thing. So there's quite a few options that you can use to soften the light. You can also get a diffuser, which is kind of like a reflector like this, only it's made out of a transparent material. And you just basically fire the flash through it, and it also softens the light. But again, you need an assistant for that. Whereas with something like this, you don't need any assistant.
It's very hard to do that sort of thing with something like this. You're basically stuck whenever you have to use the flash with deer cotton headlights kind of flash thing.
Exactly. You can also do what the fashion photographers do and use a ring flash. This is the one exception to the get the flash off the camera rule. The ring flash is basically a thing that goes around your lens and projects nice even light directly along the lens path. This, fashion photographers swear by this, and it'll give you that wonderful creamy fashion look with that awesome, what's called catch light, that little light reflecting off a person's eye. This is the look that we're trained to appreciate, from reading all the fashion magazines. And it's also great for macro photography, so if you're like taking pictures of models or something, ring flashes are awesome.
Or taking pictures of figures or dolls.
Exactly. Finally, look for photoshoot areas. This was taken at Anime Los Angeles, a great convention, and they actually have a room with light soft boxes and backgrounds and all sorts of cool photo geek stuff set up, free for anyone to use. It's really awesome, and you can get some fantastic pictures this way. A lot of conventions have them. Also, sometimes you might see somebody set up, taking cosplay photography, for like a magazine or something, and, they have all the setup, and if you ask really, really nicely, a lot of times they'll let you use their stuff. Let's say if you just want to take a picture of your friend's new costume or something, if you're really, really polite and ask them nicely, a lot of times they'll just say, sure, go ahead. Or maybe they might even offer to take a picture for you. Who knows?
Although sometimes when they offer to take the picture for you, they expect you to pay for it.
So yeah, always make sure to ask first. Okay, name the anime. You guys want a hint?
This guy was first here in the
Oh.
classes.
Okay, yes, this gentleman.
You got it.
All right.
For another lens cloth.
Lens cloth.
Hey, I don't have a lens cloth.
I have some at home. Theater. This is probably the most difficult situation of all, and in most circumstances, this is the time when you need to pull out the big guns. This is the time when you need to really put that point and shoot away and consider a DSLR, because usually your lighting is really terrible in that your subjects are brightly lit by spotlights, but your background is pitch black. And most cameras, they basically want to make the scene as even lighting-wise as possible. So you get these really terrible exposures where the background is gray and your subjects are totally washed out. You also very rarely have good seating position. Usually far back back in the cheap seats. And they always drum into your head, no flash photography. And besides, it does you absolutely no good whatsoever. The light output of these things, is only enough to go, X feet, not like way across the Nokia Theater. And in speaking about the Nokia Theater, I am so glad that they're back in the Nokia Theater this year, because it has stadium seating, which means the person's head in front of you is less likely to get in your way. Very, very hard to do with a point and shoot. You might be able to get by if you're reasonably close and you use some of the steadying techniques that we'll talk about in a bit. But with the DSLR, if you have the right gear, which we'll talk about in a bit, you can usually pull it off. So keeping it steady. How do you keep it steady? Use your surroundings. Are you standing on the balcony? Well, there's a nice railing in front of you that would make a perfect place to stabilize your camera or your lens. Are you leaning? Are you way in back? Lean against the back wall. Lean against a post nearby. Use the back of a chair if the chair in front of you is empty. Heck, I've even asked people if I could rest my lens on their shoulder. Hey, it might be a good pickup line. Who knows? There's also There's also things that creative uses for a camera strap. There's one that I like called the Death Grip, which I'll show you a picture of in a little bit. You can also get a tripod, or a monopod, which is basically a one-legged tripod. Tripods, you'll have to check with your venue, because a lot of venues do not allow tripods, but almost no venues forbid monopods. And monopods, you might think, oh, it just has one leg, it's all wobbly and stuff. Believe it or not, it gives you just enough stabilization to pull off that shot. You can also use what I call tripod alternatives, which we'll talk about in a bit. So here's the Death Grip. You can see basically he's twisted his camera strap around his wrist and anchored it against his shoulder. It provides a fantastic degree of stability. If you have a point and shoot with a wrist strap, you can kind of do the same thing, just kind of wrap it tightly around your wrist. Other things you can do, keep your arms close to your body. So don't go all like this. Instead, go like this. See, I'm keeping my arms kind of compressed close to my chest. See, that just offers enough stability sometimes to get the shot. So, tripod alternatives. There's this really weird thing that's suddenly become very popular called a string tripod. And it's extremely easy to make. You can probably make it for all of $5 in parts at the local hardware store. Basically, it's a kind of an eyelet that fits the little tripod screw. It fits the little tripod screw in the bottom, and then you tie a string around it, and then you step on the string, and you pull the camera taut against the string. So I don't have one here, but it would be like, let's say this is the string, so I'm stepping on the string, and I'm pulling it taut against it. And again, it's kind of similar to the way a monopod works. It gives you just enough stabilization to get that shot. There's also other things you can do. This This is a gorilla pod. It's probably it's the photographer's best friend because it is multi-jointed. You can wrap it around a tree branch. You can wrap it around a chair back. You can wrap it around, I don't know, anything. A balcony railing. You can wrap it around your buddy's neck if he's really bothering you a lot.
You can use it for hand holding. You know, it is like, you know, you can, if two hands are holding the camera, you can keep it more stable than just one.
That's exactly right. Let's see. Other tripod alternatives. The guy on the left is called a steady pod. It's basically the same thing as the string tripod, except they make it for you and it looks a little less ghetto. Now, the thing in the middle is a beanbag. And believe it or not, if you're shooting let's say you're outdoors, there's a rock, that would offer really good stability, but it's a rock, so it's all uneven, and the camera doesn't really sit well on it. So this beanbag kind of makes it so that it gives you a more stable platform. And you can buy them, but you can also make them. Just get an old sock or something and fill it with navy beans. Yes, and finally, the thing on the right, it's called the bottle cap tripod. And again, believe it or not, it offers you just enough stability to get that shot. And it's something that we really should be carrying with us. You have to keep hydrated and all that. So bottle cap tripod. And again, you can either make them, or there are companies that sell them. I think they're like $10 or less. Let's get geeky. We've been talking about exposure, aperture, ISO, that sort of thing. So okay. But first, name the anime.
Right over here.
Sorry?
The anime next.
Anyone?
Oh, come on, take a guess.
Anyone?
I've seen this. I've seen the anime. I know what it's about.
Anyone?
I can tell you what it's about. I don't know the name. Have you seen this anime?
Should we give a hint?
Yes, give a hint.
All right. It's the Japanese word for something we talked about in outdoor photography. You got it.
Yeah. Well, this guy was saying it before me.
Okay, right here.
Mug.
Mug, come on up and... Oh.
He really can't. Could someone on the end?
Sure.
Sola. SOLA. Fantastic anime. You should check it out. Okay, so some of you, this will be like old hat, but for some of you it isn't. So we're going to go through it. Basics of exposure. Exposure meaning getting the picture on the film or the digital sensor with the correct lighting, the desired lighting, that sort of thing. And that consists of three elements. There's shutter speed, or how fast, how much time the digital sensor is exposed to the light. There's aperture, which again is how wide or narrow the lens hole is, and finally there's ISO, which is basically how sensitive your digital camera sensor is. So shutter speed. It's expressed as fractions of a second. So 1/250, 1/60th. And for really long shutter speeds, you'll get sometimes you have long exposures, 5-second exposures. If you're doing astronomy pictures, you can have super long exposures, 30 minutes or more. However, if confusingly enough, cameras usually express this as a whole number. So on the back of the camera, you'll see 250. Well, that's not 250 seconds. That's 1/250th of a second. So it's very confusing. And when you're going long exposures, like 1 second or more, then it usually has the number 1 with a funny little mark that kind of looks like a quotation mark or something after it. So that's really confusing, but once you figure it out, oh, it's actually 1 over whatever, unless it has that little funny mark at the end of it, then you're good to go. What does shutter speed control? Well, it controls motion. If the shutter is open for a fraction of a second, you're basically freezing time. But whereas if you leave the shutter open for a fairly long time, like 1/60th of a second, 1/15th of a second, you're actually going to be capturing some motion. So let's say you're taking a picture of me talking up here. You don't want a long shutter speed, because then you'll capture the motion of my mouth and it'll be all blurry and weird and it'll look like something out of a Japanese horror movie. But let's say you're taking a picture of someone in masquerade, swinging their sword. You might want to go with like a 1/15th exposure or shutter speed. Then you can get that cool motion of the sword swinging in the air, which is awesome. Motion blur, yes. Generally speaking, the kind of rule of thumb for eliminating motion, let's say you don't want that motion blur. Generally speaking, the rule of thumb, and this also applies to camera shake, because the longer you have the shutter open, the more chance that you'll kind of jostle the camera and it'll make everything all blurry and weird. So the general rule of thumb is as close to the inverse of your camera's focal length as possible. That's how many millimeters your lens is. So for a 50 millimeter lens, you'll want to set your shutter speed to 1/50th or greater. So typically like 1/60th or something. And that is a good rule of thumb for avoiding the chance of camera shake. So aperture. Again, how wide open or closed in the lens hole is. That controls how much light you let in to the digital camera. And that's expressed as an F number. And again, like Michelle said, f-stop, that's the geeky photographer terminology for it. So you'll see like f1.8, f2, f2.8. Confusingly enough, however, since this is really the ratio of the diameter of the lens hole to the focal length, smaller numbers mean a bigger hole. So that's really, and conversely, bigger numbers mean a smaller hole. So it's bizarro land here. So once you wrap your brain around that concept, it's pretty easy. And again, aperture controls how much light you let into the camera, but it also controls depth of field, the bokeh, the blurriness that we talked about. And you can calculate this out. It's really scary math. Really, if you want to calculate it out, there's programs, there's websites, that have like little JavaScript programs that'll do it for you. You just type in what kind of lens you have and how far you are away from the subject. It'll tell you how far you need to stand in order to get things in focus and out of focus and that sort of thing. Or you can just experiment. Try standing different lengths from your subject. Try setting different apertures on your lens, and as you experiment, you'll kind of make little benchmarks in your brain as to, I'm standing X feet away, I should set my lens to F whatever. Now, if you want everything in focus, like let's say you're taking a picture of a whole group of a whole crowd of cosplayers, you want to make sure everything's in focus, because you don't want the people in the back row to be all blurry and stuff. In general, if you set your aperture to f8 or above, so f8, f11, that's in general high enough to allow everything to be in focus. ISO. ISO is sort of an international standards measurement of how sensitive something is to light. And back in the days of film, you'd have different films with different ISO numbers. So an ISO 100 film was mainly used for landscapes, out in the day, whereas an ISO 400 film is used for indoors with reasonably good light, and you'd have like ISO 800 or even higher for even lower light conditions. Now, in the film days, once you put a roll of film into the camera, you kind of have to shoot the rest of it, before you change film. So if you're walking from outdoors indoors, you'd basically kind of forfeit the rest of that roll of ISO 100 when you have to change. Not so in the digital age, because in the digital age, what ISO is really, it's controlling the gain of the digital camera sensor, or its sensitivity, and that can be adjusted on the fly. The problem with that, though, is that the trade-off here is digital noise, little grainy bits in your picture. Typically, for most point-and-shoots, you can maybe push it as high as 400. Even the cheaper point-and-shoots don't even offer the setting at all. They kind of do it automatically for you. But for DSLRs, they have much bigger image sensors, and the bigger the image sensor is, the more light sensitive it is. So if for a typical DSLRs, even the low end ones can go up to at least 800, sometimes 1600, and the mid to high range DSLRs can go even higher, 3200, 6400. You could practically take a picture in pitch darkness. It's awesome. So now, if you do have to push your ISO past the comfort zone, and you do end up with a picture with noise, all is not lost, though. There's some awesome noise processing algorithms these days. You'll lose a little bit of sharpness in your picture. Things will be softer than if you had shot with a more in-spec ISO. But at least you'll have the picture, and the software is available for both PC and Mac. There's some great ones, Noise Ninja, a couple others, and it's relatively inexpensive. I think only about $100 or less. So that's one way to go as well.
Are these Photoshop plugins?
Yes, Photoshop plugin. Noise Ninja is also a standalone program, but it's also a plugin for Photoshop, Aperture, and I believe Lightroom as well. Name that anime. Sorry.
Did you guess? Okay, we need a hint.
I'll give you a hint. It's set in pre-World War II China.
I think you got a real stumper here.
Well, shall I give it out? Give it out?
Another hint.
Okay. I'll give you 2 words in the title. Night Raid.
Okay, you?
Someone in the back.
Oh,
You got it.
Senkoku no Night Raid.
Get a picture of the audience too.
okay. I already did.
Moving on, let's talk gear.
Oh yeah.
This is the play. This is the geek's paradise here, and that's probably the reason why most of us got into photography, is because we like to play with the shiny.
Yes.
So lenses. We're sort of straying into DSLR territory here. Now, with most packages, where you get a camera body and a lens, you'll get what's called a kit lens, and that's usually something along the lines of an 18 to 55 millimeter, which is basically kind of medium wide angle to medium telephoto or zoomed in, which is a decent working range for most purposes. The only problem is that these lenses have a relatively small aperture, usually f3.5 to 5.6. They're great great lenses for outdoor photography, but once you get indoors, things start to fall down.
Fail.
You might be able to pull it off with a flash, but what's the better thing to do is get yourself what we in the biz call a fast 50. 50 millimeter prime lens meaning there's no zoom. It's just, and because there's no zoom, the lenses are simpler to make, so they can make them, it's much easier to make a high quality lens. The Canon 50, which is both Canon and Nikon, and all of the DSLR companies have a 50 millimeter prime, and they're really inexpensive. The Canon one is about $80. It's really cheesy. It's made of plastic. We call it the disposable lens, but it takes amazingly good pictures. I mean, you pop this thing on and you'll feel like a pro. You'll be turning out awesome pictures with that cool blurred background. It's fantastic. And for $80, it's a really inexpensive, an investment. It's awesome.
In the golden age of film photojournalism, that was the lens that photojournalists used. There was a gentleman named Henri Cartier-Bresson, who was very, very well known for his work with like life and time and so forth. He always had a 50 millimeter lens on his camera. He never used anything else. And he always won awards, Pulitzer Prizes, so forth.
And the thing with the 50 millimeter is because it can't zoom, it'll force you to learn to become a better photographer. Because since you can't zoom, you have to think more about how you're going to compose your shot, and it'll really make you a better photographer.
Yes, indeed.
I told you about the 18 to 55 kit lens that most cameras come with. You can actually kind of upgrade that. You can get an 18 to 55 with a wider open aperture, and again, all the camera manufacturers have that. The Canon one is really nice. It has image stabilization, which is something that I didn't really talk about before. But basically, it's a sort of an electromechanical system to help you get a little extra stability. It's not a miracle worker, but it'll definitely help. And if you want to be able to zoom, having kind of upgrading your kit lens is a good idea. The Canon 18 to 55 on the right here, that goes. It's an aperture of f2.8, which is just enough that you can get those good shots in less favorable lighting conditions, and you can do the cool black background blurring thing. Now, if you want to play with the big dogs, you can get what's called the Photojournalist Special, and you better hope that you're flush with cash for this, because this lens is going to cost you an arm and a leg. I believe the Canon variety goes for $2,000, but this lens is pure magic. This, like I said, it's the Photojournalist Special. You watch any big event, a presidential inauguration, a big sporting event, you'll see all the pros with this lens mounted on, or whatever equivalent mounted on their camera. And again, Canon, Nikon, Sony, all the camera manufacturers have the equivalent. It's basically, it goes from 70 to 200, so that's a fairly long telephoto to a very long telephoto, and it gets you an aperture of 2.8, which again lets in an awful lot of light. This is the lens that you need if you really want to be able to pull off shots in like a masquerade or a concert, that sort of thing.
Yes, indeed.
I was shooting a masquerade last night, and I didn't have a chance to process my pictures yet because, like I said, I was up until 3 a.m. working on these slides, but I was getting some awesome shots. Pam over there can attest to that. I showed her some of them.
Well, I was using my Canon G9 and I got the beautiful gray with forward subjects, and he's got this lens and it's like, oh, I can see the costumes, I can see their eyes.
I mean, you'll see details that remember the judges were up there saying, well, you can't see the details in this costume. You can with this lens, believe me.
Hey!
That was my costume.
Oh, wow.
And I happen to have one right here. it's this. I mean, this thing. You put this thing on your camera, you will feel like a pro. I mean, guaranteed. You'll feel, powerful and really awesome.
Hold it up to me so I can get a picture of the lens will do. Thank you.
Yes, the lens of power. Okay, so $2,000. If you're a dentist or a doctor, maybe you can afford that. But what if you're a poor anime fan like us? Well, sorry. We'll talk about that in a minute. Straps.
No, just go back and tell them you rented it.
I rented it. There's some great. This is sort of going into the future a bit. Renting gear is a great way to, if you're for a special occasion, it's something you cannot possibly afford, or maybe it's something you might only use once or twice a year. Renting is a great way to do that, and it's very cost effective.
Just to plug where you got it.
Lensrentals.com.
Lensrentals.com, ladies and gentlemen. We're paying our bills now.
So now let's talk straps. The strap that comes with your camera sucks. I mean, there's no way around it. It chokes you. And let's face it, it has a big Canon logo on it. So not only you're advertising for them, you're also saying "steal me." And also, they just do not fit well. They slip off your shoulder. It's really. I almost lost a camera once because the strap just fell right off my shoulder. Fortunately, I wasn't sleep-deprived at the time, so I had enough reflexes to catch it before it hit the pavement. So there's several ways to go. The one on the left here is called an up strap, and it's sort of the upgraded to the first upgrade to the main the camera strap that came with your camera. You can see it has this really nice wide rubber band that literally you put it on your shoulder and it stays put. Whether you can be, maybe you could have somebody with a cloud striped sword run into you and it'll stay put. The other alternative is getting something called a Black Rapid, and I happen to have one right here. This is basically similar in concept to a rifle strap. It kind of goes across your body like the Chewbacca bandolier. But so your camera kind of hangs at your hip, ready for use, and when you want to use it, you don't have to make the sound effect, but it's cool. But see, it has this cool little buckle that slides along the strap, so you can instant. Yeah, it's the quick draw camera strap. It's awesome. And this, I mean, it's very comfortable. I can walk around all day like this, and when I see that cool costume.
Yeah.
It's called the Black Rapid, and again, these are really cheap. They're about maybe $30 to $50, and definitely a recommended upgrade from the cheesy strap that came with your camera. Bags and cases. I love bags and cases because, let's face it, you got to schlep around all your stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, there are several ways to go. You can go the traditional photographer photo bag route. That's kind of like the one on the left here. This is a bag from a company called Geeky. They're famous for photo bags. This one, I believe, is the F5S. And the nice thing about this is, it holds a camera and a couple of decent sized lenses, but it doesn't obviously scream camera bag. So, it's really comfortable to wear. You can also go the backpack route, the one in the middle there. That's a bag from Low Pro. It's the Slingshot. And the nice thing about it is it has a strap that kind of goes around.
A gentleman over here has this very bag.
It's a fantastic bag because it has a strap where you can literally pull the bag right in front of you for instant access to your camera.
Awesome.
You can also go the sort of rolling luggage route. The problem with that is that there are some conventions, some dealers' rooms that really frown upon rolling bags like that.
Yep.
And also, when you have a backpack, you got to be careful because, well, I've almost knocked entire display cases over if I kind of back up, inconsiderately. So you got to really be careful.
Can I mention just one thing about a backpack? If you're in a really crowded place where, these are in Las Vegas, at a casino, I had something stolen out of my backpack because they've got professional pickpockets. So if you're thinking about like, you know, New York City or whatever, that you get a little lock.
Now, you might want to go the vest route, and there's the quintessential geek vest company is Scotty Vest. You look like a total tool wearing it, but believe me, I mean, you can carry a whole crap ton of gear in very comfortable fashion.
Yeah, actually, maybe calling it geeky is not the term you want here. Maybe you look very professional photographer.
There you go. There you go. And if you're traveling by air, here's a neat trick. A vest does not count as a carry-on bag, so you can literally run it right through the X-ray machine, and it won't count against your carry-ons. So load it up with photo gear, and you can still carry your laptop or whatever on with you.
Yes, this is one of the major advantages to modern digital photography, because back in the film days, if you carried around a lead-lined bag, and that was for putting your film in, and basically you would be taken off to the side while it wasn't TSA at that point, but security would want to hand check that lead-lined bag. But because of the fact that film can get fogged by some of these X-ray units, so you can't, you don't have that problem anymore with digital.
Exactly. If you forget your lead-lined bag, say bye-bye to your pictures. Now, one other alternative is maybe you want to travel light. Maybe you just want to take your camera and maybe one other lens with you. If you get something like the Black Rabbit strap, like I showed you, you can easily carry on your camera, and you can get a lens bag to carry that extra lens. And this is like a pouch that hangs off your belt. Okay, you look like Batman with his utility belt, but still, that's way more convenient than even any photo bag or backpack. So that's one route that you might consider taking as well. Memory cards. The rule of thumb is you can never have too many memory cards. The second rule of thumb is you'll run out of memory exactly the time when you need it. Memory is cheap, so you can really load up on these suckers. I mean, what's it at Costco? You can get the 8 gig SD card for like $20 or something.
Yep,
it's
yep.
ridiculously cheap. Costco, Fry's, Newegg, all sorts of places online, Amazon. Memory is ridiculously cheap, and you should definitely get as much as you can because you will need it.
It doesn't take up much space.
Exactly. Last night I shot something like 1,500 pictures at Masquerade, and believe me, I had my bandolier of memory cards, and I was all set. Another alternative is a photo storage tank, and you may want one of these even if you get a ton of memory cards, because these are excellent for backing up your pictures, because memory cards these days are very robust, but still every once in a blue moon you get a memory card failure. So basically what this is, it's basically a hard drive with a memory slot in it. You stick the card in, it'll suck all the pictures off of it and copy them onto its built-in hard drive. So that way you have the copy that's still on your memory card as well as the copy that's on your little photo storage tank. And also, and if you happen to have your laptop with you and you also load your memory card onto your laptop, then you have 3 copies of your pictures.
Redundancy is good.
Yes, redundancy is key. And
we've got a question here.
Question.
Is there a way to take the pictures from that thing onto the laptop?
Yes, you plug it in via USB, and you can transfer the photos off. It's also a great way of giving your photos to your friends. You can have them hand them your storage tank. They can copy off of it, or they can put their memory cards into it, and you can copy their photos.
Okay, we've got another question here.
Question.
What size is the storage tank?
They come in many shapes and sizes.
I'm looking size like big, like
capacity.
Yeah, that's nice. They come in many different capacities. Price varies. You can get a 250 gig one for maybe $200. They're not cheap, but they're definitely useful. So
They are going to be coming down in price.
they are. Hard drive technology just keeps getting cheaper,
And
faster,
what's
better.
more, you can also use this with your modern day digital video camera, not the kind that I've got, which still uses tape, but the current, like this little camera over here, that uses those same little SD cards, and you can just snarf the video onto this.
Some of them are relatively simple, like this one on the screen. It's the Wolverine. It basically copies pictures, does nothing else. It only has a little tiny LCD screen on it that basically gives you a basic readout. But you also have some that have really nice LCD screens on them, which also are helpful because you can use them to review your pictures. Because this screen is a lot bigger than the little. Odds are that this screen is a lot bigger than that little LCD screen on the back of your camera. So I'm going to go into one of my things here.
Yes,
I don't know if you can see that or not, but
Sorry.
see, you can review your pictures. So these have another function where you can actually, if you don't happen to have your laptop with you, but you want to be able to review your pictures easily, you can use one of these guys. So they really have multiple functions. And all the gear that I've got up here, feel free to, after the talk, come up and fondle it or whatever, or ask questions.
indeed.
The future. We talked about point and shoots and we talked about DSLRs. Point and shoots have the advantage that they're small. They have the disadvantage that they typically have really small sensors, less capable lenses, less features. DSLRs are fantastically versatile. You can use you can use flashes with them. You can use all sorts of different lenses, but they're big. Even the modern ones, they're still a lot bigger than a point and shoot. So a really exciting thing is happening in photography nowadays. There's a third category of cameras that is rapidly emerging, and this is called micro four thirds. And what this is like a point and shoot. It's really small. This is the Olympus EP1, or I think it's the EP2, I forget which one. It's really small, but they have bigger sensors than your typical point and shoot, and they have interchangeable lenses. So really, it's the best of both worlds. The only problem with them is that they're still a bit pricey. I think the Olympus is $800, $900, but that's bound to change, so definitely keep your eye on micro four thirds. It is a fantastic format. It's getting a lot of traction. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Name that anime.
Okay, over there.
Yes, you.
The cloud.
Got it in one. Renting. Again, stuff like this lens of doom, it costs, basically my entire salary for the month. So, if you can't buy, rent. It's great for those special occasions. So let's say it's your sister's first masquerade. You want to take some awesome pictures of them doing their performance. You can rent gear, rent the lens of doom for that. also great for trying before you buy. Let's say you've got a point and shoot and you want to make the jump to DSLR. Well, there's Canon, there's Nikon, there's Sony, there's all sorts of different brands. And once you buy into a brand, you're into that brand for life. Canon cameras can only be used with Canon lenses, to their fullest capacity. Same with Nikon and Sony. So really, you want to pick the camera that suits you. And they all have different physical feels to them. They have different user interfaces. The menuing system. Some people like the Canon way of doing things. Some people like the Nikon way. And if you have a really good store in your town, you can go in and I'm sure that they'd let you check out their gear. But maybe they don't have the widest selection.
Cough,
so
Sammy's cough.
yeah. So renting gear is a great way of trying before you buy, and if you end up not liking it, you're not stuck into the system. And it's not as expensive as it sounds. This lens here, I think, cost me a total of $99 to rent for a 1-week period. That's including insurance, so the thing can be practically run over by a train and I wouldn't be liable for it. It includes return shipping. It's really easy. They send you a UPS label. You basically slap it back on the box that it came in, drop it off. It's as simple as that, easy peasy. And the company that I've found that I really, really like is LensRentals.com. They have a ridiculously huge selection of gear. All the major camera manufacturers, all sorts of lenses, including weird lenses like tilt shift lenses, lens babies, all sorts of really bizarre things. They have lighting kits. They've got reflectors. They've got studio lighting. They've got video cameras. They've got sound equipment. They've got a ridiculously huge. I'd love to see these guys warehouse one of these days. And their staff is extremely knowledgeable, and really, they take customer service to a new level. I've asked really weird, obscure questions at 2 o'clock in the morning. I've gotten responses within 30 minutes. These guys know customer service. They know their stuff. They're all professional photographers. They've shot for many years. They know their gear. And we have this lovely discount code that you can use for 5% off, good through the rest of this month. And that's LensRentals.com.
Yes, and we are very lucky. Here we are living in Los Angeles. If you live in Los Angeles or if you live in New York, there are a multitude of these kind of companies. We love it if you use the ones that have been so kind to us, but there are others, just to be fair. However, if you're in the boonies, in what some people call flyover country, having a company that will actually ship you a lens and then ship you another lens, you can ship it back to them, is very, very useful.
Another thing about the physical rental companies, you can rent from like camera shops and stuff. The problem is that they usually impose a deposit on you, sometimes non-refundable. No deposit with Lens Rentals. They have extremely good insurance coverage, so they don't charge you any deposit or anything weird like that.
So if you want to rent some gear for con, they're the people to go to.
These are the guys that the pros use, but the prices are within reach of even schmucks like us. So definitely check them out. Even if you don't rent from them, their website has a fantastic amount of information. They've got a great blog where they often post, photo tips, how-tos, that sort of thing. So definitely check them out. Name that anime.
Okay, looks like you're stomach.
Hint.
I'll give you a hint. We're kicking it old school here, 80s.
There's a hand here.
Okay,
You got it, sir. I think that deserves a t-shirt because BGC is one of my favorite series of all time. It's the one that got me into the fandom, so there you go.
Oh, crap. Didn't people read my schedule?
My mom. ability. In the shower, fight with my boyfriend. Yeah.
Now I'm going to talk about a subject that would have gotten me laughed off the stage only a year or two ago.
Yes,
Cell
and what
phone.
you heard just now going off.
Cell phone cameras. It used to be that the mere idea of using a cell phone camera is just ridiculous because, let's face it, they were crappy until just recently. But now they're actually getting good. I mean, still a dedicated point and shoot is much better, but the cell phone cameras have now come to a point where they're actually usable and make decently good shots. And let's face it, what is the best camera? It's the one that you have with you. And, we usually have our cell phones with us. The new iPhone 4 that just came out has a terrific camera in it. It's just gorgeous pictures. And the latest crop of Android phones, like the HTC Evo that I've got, cameras on these are really fantastic as well.
Indeed.
But to get to their full potential, you need a little bit of help. Problem, of course, with a cell phone is that it's small, so it's really easy to jostle around. And again, keep it steady. So I don't know who thought of this idea, but if I ever meet the guy, I want to give him a big old hug or something because it's this pure genius. Most cell phones nowadays have accelerometers in them. Accelerometers measure acceleration. And what happens when acceleration reaches 0? That means your motion is stopped. So why not write a program that checks the phone's accelerometer and only takes the picture when it's at 0? That's a freaking stroke of genius. And the iPhone has there's some great software for both iPhone and Android. For the iPhone, there's a fantastic program called Darkroom or Darkroom Pro. Again, it works like the iPhone's built-in camera program, but when you press the button, it won't actually take the picture until it detects that the phone has come to rest. For Android, there's a program called Perfect Camera and also Smart Cam. Neither of these are very expensive. I think maybe $5 tops. Totally worth it. And, most of us, when we think you're taking a picture, we think of editing a picture. We think, we got to go back to the PC. Well, the phones nowadays are getting so powerful that they can actually do some really credible editing right in the phone itself. And then you can, directly post it to Flickr or whatever. So it's like a one-stop shop. And for the iPhone, both iPhone and Android have a program called, it's from Adobe, Photoshop Mobile. It's completely free. It has some decent basic editing tools, cropping, a little bit of manipulation. But if you want more features like color control, that sort of thing, you have to spend a little bit of money. Again, not a whole lot, maybe $5 or less. And for the iPhone, there's some great programs, PhotoGene and PhotoForge. And for the Android, there's SnapFX, Pixay, which comes in both a free and a pro version. You can try out the free version with most of the features, and if you want the extra stuff, go up to pro. And there's also Photo Enhancer, which also has both a free and a paid version. So, only a year or two ago, I would have been laughed off the stage if I even, mentioned cell phone cameras. Now they're actually becoming very credible. Remember the jet that crashed in the Hudson River? Some of the first photos of that incident came from an iPhone. So even they're very credible photo taking devices now. Name the anime.
Right here.
Got it. Let's do a mug.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. Photography etiquette.
a lot of people wonder, well, can I take this picture? Can I post this picture? Us in photography, there's this concept called, first of all, I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on TV. But my understanding is that in terms of where photography is concerned, there's a concept called expectation of privacy, where basically, even though we're here in a convention center, which is private property, there is still no real expectation of privacy in that, we're out among other people, we're in the public. So anything you can see is fair game, photography speaking, assuming that you're just using it for personal use, posting it on your website or whatnot. This all changes if you decide to go commercial, start selling your images or whatnot. And in that case, I really cannot advise you. You should really consult a lawyer. And there are lawyers that specialize in the law as it applies to photographers and journalists and so forth. I really recommend you contact one of those.
Yes, and Will Wheaton's law does apply here. Don't be a dick.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah. I mean, if you see somebody with a wardrobe malfunction, don't be that guy and go hee.
Don't be a dick.
But basically, if you can see it in normal circumstances, it's pretty much fair game. Not like a case where you're photographing somebody in their hotel room using a zoom lens. That does not apply. But that's like otaku stalker type stuff. That's like a perfect blue material.
Yes.
But if you're just walking around the convention center, fair game. And of course, the polite thing to do is to ask.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I mean.
If
by
nothing,
don't be a dick.
If nothing
Ask
else,
first.
if nothing else, just do something like maybe hold up your camera and put a little questioning look on your face. Just something to acknowledge that the person is the person that you're taking a picture of is a human being. And it's also nice to maybe compliment them on some part of their costume. Hey, that's a cool sword, or whatever.
Yes, thank you goes a long way.
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Awesome.
Do we have a little bit of swag to give this lovely lady?
I don't know.
I'll at least give her a magnet or two.
There you go.
I hear this reward costume.
I think it's the only thing to do. If they're going to stop to get pictures taken, we wear them when we want people to take pictures. Thank you.
Now, if you're going to Japan, everything changes. Cosplay photography in Japan is really weird. It's very regimented in that you're not, first of all, in many cases, possibly all cases, when we went to AX Tokyo, we actually had to register ourselves as photographers, and we'd get a little camera sticker on our badge. And then also, you cannot just take pictures of people in, anywhere. There are actually designated cosplay photography areas, and if you attempt to take any pictures outside of that area, it's verboten. So they give you this lovely little symbol, which basically means you're an idiot. Only a little more polite than that. So, good ideas in general. Read the fine manual. In other words, the manual that came with your camera. Know your camera. Learn its ins and outs. Use the Force, Luke.
Even if you're dealing with something like this.
Only by reading the manual. I've seen so many cases where, that really cool costume walks by. People raise their cameras, but they're sitting there fumbling with their buttons. How do I set this mode? Blah, blah, blah. If you know your camera, you'll know your fingers will kind of gravitate automatically towards the right necessary controls. It's like using the Force, like I said. Practice. Your piano teacher was correct. Practice. Go out during, before the big Anime Expo Cosplay Spectacular, go to a smaller convention like your Anime LAs or your Mikomicons or something. Try out your skills, hone your skills. even non-anime venues, if like there's a lecture in town, and they allow photography, go in there, try and take a picture of, the person at the podium. That would be a great practice for doing masquerade shots. Or just, wander around, take pictures of buildings, flowers, whatnot. Learn your camera, how it works, learn its settings, practice with, your apertures. That way you'll know, how far back you have to stand in order to get that cool blurring effect in the background. Practice, practice, practice. Don't forget your gear. Make a packing list, stick to it. Organization will set you free. A couple years ago, many years ago, I was, I think it was the Northern California Cherry Blossom Festival in San Francisco. I'd brought my camera, but I'd forgotten my camera's battery charger. And, most DSLRs, they use these proprietary batteries that, you can't just buy double A's at the grocery store and shove them in. So, after the first day or so, I burned down my battery. And there was something I really wanted to take a picture of the next day. So there I was in the middle of San Francisco. I had to find this Circuit City in this dodgy part of town, and I paid twice the going rate for a battery charger that broke on me 6 months later. So don't forget your gear.
I won't mention the traffic, the parking, finding it in the middle of it. Anyway, don't do that again.
Definitely observe no photo areas. A lot of times they're posted with signs, or they'll say in the Anime Expo forums or the program guide, no, you can take pictures here without flash. You can't take pictures at all here, that sort of thing. Observe the no photo areas, or if you're going to be that guy, at least be prepared to face the consequences, which can be stiff. I know somebody who is permanently banned from San Diego Comic-Con because they disobeyed the rules. So just follow the rules. Yeah.
You can have any question time?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to crop, cutting out parts of your picture. That way you can, eliminate things like if somebody is making a funny face in the background, you can crop them out. In many cases, a good picture will become a great picture with judicious use of cropping. Take many pictures, which is what I call the machine pistol approach. Basically, shooting a lot and hoping one of them will strike its target. Most cameras, even the cheap point and shoots nowadays, have an auto repeat mode where it'll basically take pictures, X seconds, every X seconds. That way, if maybe like 2 out of 3 will be like blurry and weird, but that one in the middle will just be perfect. It's
yes.
the Goldilocks and the Three Bears thing.
Yes, back in the day when I was studying photography, when we were doing film, most cameras did not have this as a built-in feature. You had to buy a motor drive. If you were lucky, it came, there was a motor drive that came with your that you could buy for your camera. And it was a pricey item. We're talking about the same amount as the camera. So the very fact that even this cheap camera here has the ability to shoot multiples is just awesome.
And finally, the real estate people say it all the time, and it's true for photography as well. Location, location, location. Scout your area if you can. Go around, look around at outside at the photoshoot areas. Find those shady spots where you can soften the light. And sometimes, sometimes a photographer will find a location and set up only to find that a much better location was just a couple feet away. So definitely look around.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Exactly. Name the anime.
Right in the back of the center.
Oh, yes. You over there?
Eh.
This gentleman.
Yes, this gentleman over here?
Eh. You want a hint?
Hint.
We wave them around on this day. You got it.
Okay, where's the gentleman that I need to deliver to? Where is he?
I could have gotten that one.
I figured that was too easy.
That's the name of the net?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
It's an awesome kind of war anime. Yeah. It's interesting because it kind of takes the point of view of the war journalists. And there's mechs. So, in summary, point-and-shoots generally work well when you're free to walk up close to your subject and your lighting is good and you can manage your shadows. DSLRs work well when those aren't the conditions. So mostly, sometimes you can get a point-and-shoot to work indoors if you use the, steadying tricks. But in certain indoor circumstances like Masquerade, you really need to pull out the big guns. And I think I have one more picture than I have swag. But just for the heck of it, will somebody name the anime? Oh, magnets, yes. Name the anime.
Right over there. You over here. Yes, him. Yeah.
Got it.
All right. A pair of magnets for your fridge. Right here.
Questions?
Just last and finally, resources. Scott Kelby is a very accomplished photographer. He's written a series of 3 awesome books called the Digital Photography Book, Volume 1, 2, and 3. His books take a more cookbook approach. Rather than spouting off about theory and exposures and f-stops and stuff, his books cover the, you have this situation. How do you handle it? What settings do you set? It's sort of the cookbook approach, and it's a fantastic series of books. And the pictures are just gorgeous. Even just flipping through the book and looking at the pictures will inspire you to get out there and take pictures.
Donald, I think there's some people who would like to have some Q&A time.
Okay.
I'll just mention that Scott Kelby has photo walk.
I was getting to that.
Yeah, you can't get to it anymore because it's time for questions. But there's one this month, and you can check it out
Okay.
on his website.
So
Q&A time?
Scott Kelby.
here it is, Worldwide Photo Walk, July 24th, which is a Saturday. And go to worldwidephotowalk.com to sign up, completely free. And they have them all across the country. Actually, all across the world. Questions?
Oh, you over there.
I want to get into photography, and I wanted to do what you were saying with the next one. Do you have any suggestions for an amateur photographer?
I would start with do you want to go the point and shoot route or the DSLR route? I would rent, you're not wedded to a system yet, so, you flip a coin, Canon or Nikon. They're both roughly the same features and performance. So get yourself the low end. For the Canon, that would be like the Rebel series, the Rebel X, the Rebel TI, the Rebel XS. That would be one of them. They're extremely lightweight. They're a great entry level DSLR. And rent yourself something on the order of an 18 to 55 lens. That's a good starting lens. And feel free to come up and take a look at the gear here if you want afterwards. More questions?
Questions? Last call.
Oh, right over here.
What do you think would be a good starter point and shoot?
A good starter point and shoot. The Canons make excellent point and shoots. They have the A1000 series. They're very lightweight. They have image stabilization, which helps somewhat in the shaky camera department, and they're really inexpensive. And the nice thing about those is that they use regular AA batteries. So if you're out traveling, you're never stuck very far from power.
Yes, and the lithium batteries, the lithium AAs. Those those are your friends. They will stick with you and they will give you a lot of pictures before they have to get thrown out.
Mhm.
I have to say that I like the Nikons too. Nikon has a line called Coolpix.
Oh yeah, those are excellent.
I think the L line is a little bit cheap, but is it like the A line that's a little bit more prosumer?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I want you guys to get some applause before everybody has left, so let's take an applause break and then people can come up with questions.
Thank you, awesome.